This is a 1955 wheel horse, Right-Away Junior, model RJ-35. The RJ means Right-Away Junior, and the 35 represents the 3.5 horsepower engine. In this case, it's a Clinton engine. There was also an RJ-25, and they had a Briggs & Stratton 2.5 horsepower engine. The 1955 models would have silver wheels on the front and black wheels on the back. The 56 model would have all black wheels, and the 57 model would have all white wheels. This tractor has a lift lever with a push button on top. Some of the early tractors didn't have a push button. They held the implement in the upward position with a hook on the frame. To lower the implement, you would pull the handle back and move it around the hook. To lower the implement on this style, you push the button to release the latch. This is not the original pull starter. You can see how it's been spaced out a little bit there. I think this tractor should have a Schnacky brand pull starter. That was the small round one that used a cable instead of a rope. This is the rear hitch where you would attach your implements. It moves up and down when you move the lift lever on the side of the tractor. This is an early style belt guard because it's open on the side. The drive system on this tractor uses a variable speed pulley setup. You change speeds by moving the lever on the side. If you pull the lever all the way back, it would go in reverse. Some of the tractors made in '55 would have had cable steering. The cable wrapped around a spool on the steering shaft, and when you turned the steering wheel, the cable pulled the tie rod from one side to the other. At some point they changed it to use this linkage instead of the cable, and they used this design clear up through 1959. The frame on this one's a little bit different. You can see that it was formed out of a flat piece of metal. I've seen earlier ones that were made out of channel iron, and I've seen later ones that were made out of channel iron. So I believe this particular one has a frame that was meant to be a cost saver, but it turned out to not work so well. If you look in the front here, you can see the gap on one side is a lot smaller than the gap on the other side. But the tractor's sitting on fairly level ground here. I think what happened is those frames twisted. So after they figured that out, they went back to the channel iron frame, which was a lot more rigid. On these early tractors, brakes were an option. So this tractor has no brakes. The large area on this left hub has been machined flat, and that's where the brake band would go. The hub on this right side has a casting that's not been machined. because the brake only worked on one wheel. The smaller steering wheels on these early tractors were made of cast iron, so they were fairly fragile. This one you can see is broken here, and it's been previously repaired. In fact, all three spokes have been broken and repaired. After a while, they went with larger steering wheels that had 3 round steel spokes. If you look at this casting on the side, it has the name Pond cast in the side of it. These tractors were made by Elmer Pond and his son Cecil Pond. This same drivetrain was used on 2-wheel garden tractors before they started making the 4-wheel tractors. The really early 1955 tractors had a platform for the fuel tank to rest on. That would have been more expensive to manufacture, so most of the tractors you'll find have the fuel tank suspended under the hood with these straps. One of the attachments available for these tractors is this front-mounted sickle bar mower. I have a plexiglass cover on this because at some tractor shows you have to have these things covered because it's a safety issue. I mounted this cover using existing bolt holes, so I didn't have to make any modifications. There's some more bolt holes off to the side here so that you can shift the sickle bar mower off to the one side. There's a crankshaft under here, and it moves this tie rod forward and back. There's a bell crank on the front, and it changes that forward and back motion into a side-to-side motion. The drive belt runs off of the outside groove of this engine pulley, and there's a lever here that you move with your foot to engage and disengage the drive belt. There should be a belt guard here that goes around this pulley, and that would contain the belt so it didn't rub on the pulley when the drive was disengaged. I'm going to point out a few design changes they made over the years. So I'm looking at the rear hitch again. This one happens to have the original hitch pin in it. This one's made out of multiple pieces welded together. But if you look at this 57 over here, both sides and the bottom are made out of one piece of metal bent into shape. And the whole top was formed out of one piece of metal. So they used less parts and it still worked the same. If you compare the belt guards, this early style has an open side. And over on this 57, this is what it looked like when they put a side on it. Earlier I pointed out this frame that's made out of a flat piece of metal bent into shape. And this 57 over here has the frame that's made out of a piece of channel iron. Another difference is the front of the hood here. This 1957 has wheel horse stamped in the front of the hood, and these early tractors didn't have that. This is the newer style steering wheel with the steel spokes. You can see the shaft is recessed a little bit here. They fixed that later on so it came out to flush. You can see the older style is a lot smaller, so they were harder to turn. I had this tractor running shortly after I got it, but it's hard to get parts for these Clintons anymore. So I drained all the gas and cleaned it all out, and I haven't started it since. So I'm not going to run it for you. I guess it's a static display now. If you want to see how that variable speed pulley works, you should watch the video I made about 4 months ago called 1957 Wheel Horse RJ-35 and New Variable Speed Pulley. You can find it on my Pack Rats Fabrications YouTube channel. Alright, that's it.